Okay, I think we will start with this symposium. This is so welcome everybody. Nice that you attend this INTERDEM symposium on sharing best practices e-health interventions in dementia care. An important topic, we think, because we know with the demographics that we need e-health interventions to keep good quality care in dementia. We saw during the COVID period that many people who, maybe at first did not want to use technology did so in this period because there were no good alternatives. And we know that people also liked it, the users themselves, but also professionals. However, we also know that at the moment, still the implementation of e-health interventions is laying behind. And we think it is important that we share our knowledge worldwide to see how we can develop good technologies, how we can make technologies user-friendly, usable, and also fun to use. And also that we need to see how we can implement technologies in a good way. And today in our session, we have 4 presentations, and all 4 are dedicated to share knowledge about e-health interventions in dementia. And we do that also in a network, the JAIN network, of which we will also talk today. And all of us are involved in that network as well. So we have, as I said, 4 speakers. Each of them will have 50 minutes in total, including your questions. And hopefully we have then at the end of our session some time left also for discussion. So I have the honor to start myself. So I will share my presentation with you. What I want to talk today about is one activity within JAIN. JAIN stands for Joint Artificial Intelligence Network. And one of the activities in JAIN is to organize challenges. And a challenge was organized in the Netherlands as a kind of a test for what we are now doing, a worldwide challenge. And I will talk about that in a few minutes. First of all, I already said it a little bit, that it is a challenge to maintain a good quality of life with dementia. The recent World Alzheimer Report talked about a tsunami of demand for healthcare services in the field of dementia because of several reasons. And there are many assistive technologies, e-health interventions developed, but in practice, there are many barriers which result in the interventions not being used that much. And therefore, we think the solution could be that we really start to have worldwide collaborations, develop learning communities so that we can really move the field forward. And as I said, develop interventions that are really going to be used by the end users. And for these development of learning communities, the JAIN network is set up, and the founder of this JAIN network is Hans Arnold. And I interviewed him. We did that, really like the COVID period, I think, from a distance. And also you can see that we had our questions and answers in different time frames. But I want to share a short video with you about who Hans is and what he wants to develop with JAIN. Hans, I know you for over 1 year now, and I think that your enthusiasm in the field of artificial intelligence and dementia is really striking. And I wonder if you could say something to us about your background and also about how you became passionate about dementia research.
Hi, Franka Meiland. This is a very nice introduction. Thank you. Due to my study as a flight engineer, I have a good understanding of the possibilities of artificial intelligence and new technologies. Over the past 20 years, I have enriched my expertise in artificial intelligence during innovation projects in the fields of peace, justice, and security. Due to an emotional event in February 2019, when a loved one suddenly lost his memory, I have decided to put my 40 years experience completely at the service of people with dementia.
And in your opinion, Hans, when would JAIN be a success? So, what do you think should we see in daily practice or in outcomes?
This is a beautiful question, and I need to give a short answer to that. JAIN stands for Joint Artificial Intelligence Network, and JAIN is an international network of researchers, professionals, and organizations. Our activities, together with INTERDEM members and all involved Alzheimer associations around the world, we want to support worldwide quality of life for people living with dementia. The specific activities are focused on together creating a worldwide continuous learning network of, on the one hand, people with dementia, relatives, non-profit and professional caregivers, and on the other hand, artificial intelligence experts.
Thanks. Could you also tell us something about what JAIN stands for and also something about its main activities?
Again, I need to focus on a short answer to this very in-depth question. Jane is a success as we see that people with dementia, supported by artificial intelligence, living in their own homes 24 hours per day, and they are self-reliant in their own chosen way and according to their self-chosen quality of life.
And what is needed from us to make JAIN a success?
All of us who are supporting Jane, we ask to make the World JAIN Challenge happen by requesting institutes and companies to register themselves as a candidate for the World JAIN Challenge with a full-fledged product or a prototype. As well that we are able to help companies to develop support products for 50 million people with dementia worldwide, based on artificial intelligence and new technologies to support people with dementia in real time 24/7 and bring these products to the world market. I hope that you all have a very good conference, and I hope to meet you during the World JAIN Challenge. Thank you very much and goodbye, Hans.
So now you also know who this man is behind JAIN, and you also saw something about his enthusiasm, I think, and also his great ambition. So let's see how far we come with that. So yeah, we talked sometimes now about a challenge, and as I said, there was already a challenge in the Netherlands. We call that the National JAIN Challenge. And the idea behind this challenge is that we want to search for good ideas that are out there, know what is already out there and what's already being used, learn from each other, and also the persons who win this JAIN challenge, yeah, to help them move forward. And in the the National JAIN Challenge that took place this year, there were 6 finalists. 3 finalists were there who had a good idea, a good prototype. So these were Caring, Time Steps, and Toloba. And there were 3 finalists in the category with developed products. And I want to continue now with showing which were the products that were finalists in this National JAIN Challenge. First of all, that was this radio that you see here, a very easy to use radio where carers can put the favorite music of their loved ones. And it's also very easy to use the radio by the persons who use by the end users. So the people with dementia, they can use it easily. So that was one of the finalists. The other finalist was Silverfit. And Silverfit is a company in the Netherlands who develops various products for people with dementia, where they can move and do activities in a kind of a gaming environment. So, and these are used for people from mild to more severe dementia, but also for elderly people in rehabilitation settings or physiotherapy practices. However, the winner of this products, the 3 products, that was the 123 Family app, which is an app with which you can, on a tablet, very easily connect with the person with dementia via video. You see here a picture of a photo of a woman, and here you see in the yellow part a tablet hanging on the wall where then the relative can have easy contact. And the winners of this this competition are helped by getting more attention for their products, but also if they want to develop this product, for instance, in other countries, want to have help with improving their products, that is something that is also supported by JAIN and organizations that do support JAIN. So it can be nice to participate in, I think. And we've now started the World JAIN Challenge, and we've learned, of course, from how it all went in the Netherlands. So what we do is a bit of the same concept as the National JAIN Challenge. That is that people can apply with a good product or a good prototype, and that is possible till January the 28th. You can register and apply via the link that is shown here below. Hans and others will see if the submission applies to the criteria, and maybe also help a little bit to help it apply to the criteria. And then there is an assessment procedure, and for the assessment, INTERDEM is also involved in the assessment committee, especially the Task Force Assistive Technology. Persons with dementia and informal caregivers are involved in focus group, care professionals, dementia experts, and also artificial intelligence experts. And also in this challenge, the prototypes and products, there will be 3 best selected, and they will present themselves on the dates you see here. And then on the 6th of April, the finalists are announced, who will be the winners, and they will also get more attention, promotion, and support when needed. So we hope that many of the ones who are listening also today will send in good initiatives and accept the challenge, and so that we can learn from each other what was also the core of this World JAIN Challenge. To finalize, I show you here who are involved. You see here a poster of the JAIN team of people who work on it and do the various activities. On the website of JAIN, you can also see all kinds of activities they are doing. And yeah, the JAIN challenge is supported also by Alzheimer Europe, Alzheimer Nederland, and INTERDEM. And you see here also pictures of supporters. And yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you in my presentation. So I don't know if there are questions. I see one question, curious to understand when artificial intelligence might become a reality for most or for all people. I don't know if I understand the question, but I think that there are some challenges in making artificial intelligence usable and a reality for all people, indeed. So we don't think lightly about that. I think, yeah, there are several ways to make technology in that way that it is yeah, accepted by the end users. Marco Blom will also talk about that, how you can promote that. But I think there are also yeah, issues with equality if technology is maybe too expensive, with digital literacy, etc. So I think we need, yeah, in our knowledge community, we have also to see how we can get everyone involved and also allow training for professionals and caregivers, and yeah, to also have attention for technology and national dementia strategies, etc. So I think there's really a challenge indeed, but we are thriving to make artificial intelligence, yeah, possible for everyone. Not only because we can be more efficient, is always my message, but also because you can make care more nicely and more fun and more quality. The experience for participating in the Netherlands JAIN challenge, I was involved a bit from the side, so I cannot exactly say that. I've learned all the steps that were taken, and I think it was very smart of Hans and his team to have this national test before going worldwide. Perhaps Marco knows it better than me and could answer, because you were more involved in the national JAIN challenge than me.
I think we're missing Hans Arnold here, because he's doing the desk research on the products that are submitting. So he has a list of criteria. Amongst others, is it more or less AI proof, and is there enough AI in the product? So that probably, if people want to know what the definition are, probably they should send a mail to Hans Arnold and the team, and he will come back to it.
Yeah, and I think also on the website of JAIN, you can see the registration form and also exactly all the criteria, because I see now also a question about what do we, how is artificial intelligence defined? I think that also counts for how is a prototype defined, or what kind of a product it can be submitted, and you all can see that on the website.
Maybe, and I should add that on behalf of the family carers and the people with dementia who joined the assessment of the product, it was really fun to do so. And we had a good experience in having focus groups. So with a small group of people pay a lot of attention to assessing the products and to exchange ideas and experiences. But it was fun to join these focus groups.
Okay, thanks Marco for adding this, and I see that will also be a link to the JAIN website in the chat. So thanks for that too. I think that we now then go on with our next presentation, and that's Professor Manuel Franco. He is professor from the University of Salamanca and also head of the psychiatry department of Zamora and Valladolid. And he is an expert in technology in psychosocial interventions and quality of care management. So Manuel, the floor is yours.
Yes, Thank you very much, Franka, for your introduction to the and try to get out, take off the mask for it will be easier. Well, I thought I'm going to, well, thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you to the Alzheimer Europe for letting me be here and to be part of the wonderful meeting, wonderful Congress. It's a pity that we have to be online a year more. I hope that the next year we can be on site face to face and share time debating about all of these topics. Well, my talk will be about the setting up of field labs and the pilot in Spain. We are working on with right now, and for us is a very important point to work in the field labs and living labs. The innovation and new developments in technology goes to the needs from the needs to the technology applied to the users, and in the way it's necessary first to establish the needs. We have to involve people suffering dementia in our case, or the final users in this part, in order to define well what is the needs that they want to fix. After this, it's necessary to establish, to find or look for good ideas for fixing it, to covering and solving the needs. The next step is to check the suitability of these ideas. For that, regularly we use the methodologies to use the focus group, and we check the different ideas for solving any problem or any needs. After that, with all that information, start the development of the application. When we were talking in the last question about the implementation of intelligent artificial, the main point is to develop a good application solving needs. After the technology develop it, is necessary to check the usability and feasibility. One thing is different to do something useful for people. Another point is that this can be used, can be implemented in the regular life for people. And finally, that point, the implementation is a key point in terms of this necessary to check implementation and satisfaction. And it's important the emotional engagement with the technology, because in other way, we can have a very good technology, but not use it by the final user. From this point of view, on this way, I think that there are two weak points to challenge that is not easy to solve. First is to find good ideas for fixing the needs, because not always is to improve the regular solution or the regular way for fixing it. And the other challenge is to check the implementation in a real world or real environment. I want to come to these sentences because it's important in this first challenge for looking for new ideas for solving the different challenges or the needs that people have, is that not always is to improve the regular solutions. And I want to remember the sentences of Henry Ford about if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horse, and instead to discover or to set up the cars. And it's good to know that sometimes something full right now can be a good idea or to be a genius in the future. So in this phase we have to take into account that the users are very, very important in terms to define well what is the needs. Not only in abstract or in general is it necessary to define very well what exactly they want, but it's necessary to be creative. It's necessary to look for different ways for solving that, because in most of the cases the users are not going to give us how to solve it. So it's important to involve in the developments in these first phases the users and people smart and innovative brain. I think that is good and it's important to step on for finding or involving in our sector people with those characteristics. The second challenge is to check the implementation in a real world, and that is the idea, or that is the usefulness of Living Lab. If we want to work in a user-centered design, considering the needs and the satisfaction of the people, the final users, the best way for engaging user into the innovation process is to work with a Living Lab in order to work in a cooperative design. It means that we have to involve the final users from the first step in a participatory design that is focuses on the user participation, and we have to look for a cooperation between designers, users, and stakeholders, because it's necessary to apply with the social network and support from the government in order to improve the process and outcomes, to apply a contextual design and add data kept in the real user environment. In this point, Living Lab is an strategical methodology, and technology outside of the social context in general is ambiguous. Is what we were talking about, the artificial intelligence, in terms that talking about that is very ambiguous. It's necessary to observe and to apply that in the specifically for people in order to solve what is necessary for them. That's why the different technologies needs to be concrete for solving specific problems, and in experience design focused on the user experience quality instead of the number of functionalities. It's not so important that the technology can solve many functionalities or many problems or many needs. It's good that the experience of to consider and take into account the experience of the final users. Well, all of these model methodologies applied for the technological developments are joined in using the Living Lab. In the Living Lab, we can go from the context studies to field studies, getting and keeping the user experience in the natural environment. That is the main point of the Living Lab, that the final users can be in the regular environment, living with in the normal, regular way, and we can observe and get what is the satisfaction, what is the needs visit, and what is not, and what is used and what is not, what is possible to improve and what is not. And so I think that the real challenge, because my feeling is that, and we were working about that, that there are many technologies. The technology can provide us a lot of utilities for maintain and support people with dementia, but in many cases it's difficult to jump the gap between the researchers to the real world. Living Lab, I think, and field labs is an opportunity for doing that, and is formally is an open innovation ecosystem and environment for development and testing of technologies and application in user-driven innovation in ecosystems. It's exactly that. The user is the most important person, or the most important thing in the Living Labs, because it's focused on it in order to get information that we can keep for considering in the new developments and improving the technology that we have developed. So in this context, we can expose the user to new solutions. Is necessary in this Living Labs to provide a familiar context. Is necessary that no artificial environment, and is important too for long-term, medium and long-term studies. It's not just for try just a little bit. That's why we started 1 year ago with the support of the Technological and Innovation Minister in Spain. The Peace of Mind project is a project shared by the Deusto University in the north of the country, by IPSAL, is the Health Institute in Salamanca, linked to the Salamanca University, in which I work, is a Health Research Institute, certificate by the national government, and the Alcalá de Henares University, in order to develop technology applied in a Living Lab. That is the project. And in that context, we have started with a new Living Lab, designed from the beginning as Living Lab. We can see here what is the distribution. It's a very easy a house for working with, and we are putting a lot of technology for take control about the activity, about the support the person, with the objective that we were said about JAIN, to support people in their houses and to maintain them without needing to transfer to nursing home or institution. So it's in order to maintain the people in their communities and with the familiar environment. So for this kind of Living Lab, the main elements are users, of course, is the main, to have to apply and try technological application with a good infrastructure. That is one of the main points that we have designed the house from the beginning for being used as a Living Lab. We have another Living Lab with houses in which people were living, but the capacities and the usefulness is a little bit lower. It's important to work with a methodology and organization in order to try the different technologies with a good methodology for knowing well it is useful or not. And we are training people with expertise in living lab, and for that is necessary to visit different living lab for a good development. What is the
Manuel, may I, sorry, I will
Go.
interrupt you. Are you nearly there? Because the quarter of an hour is out. It's nice if you can also have some questions, maybe.
Okay,
answered.
I'm finished. Just two more. Well, and the
Okay.
point is the digitization to get that analysis in order to predict the future of what is the behavior. The system works in this way with the cloud. Well, we can see how is the using a lot of sensor for getting information about movements, about where is the routines of the people, and all of it is processed in a server in order to predict with IA how the next step in the behavior can be. That is the way. And finally, a conclusion is that we are setting up the Living Lab in Spain, specifically in Zamora. We are working in a network, local network of Living Lab for checking different technologies in different environments, an external network for increased creativity, achieve a critical mass and economy of scale. And I think that it will be, and it is, a source for co-creation, exploration, evaluation, and experimentation. Sorry, Franka, for being long.
Thank you for this interesting presentation and also this
That's okay.
interesting work. I think it's very important, the development of these field labs. And maybe we can do one question now, and if other questions are that we see if we can do that at the end. That is a question: as the COVID pandemic impacted how the Living Lab operates, and have there been adaptations maybe with online methods?
Well, formally, I see a question about the impact of COVID pandemic in the working of Living Lab. The fact is that the Living Lab was setting up in parallel with the COVID, and formally the flat, the house uses for Living Lab is just for one or two people, but it's not. We are not joining people there, and formally is not affected by that. It's just the opposite. It's I think that in my experience, the best way for coping to the outbreak is specifically to work in the community. I think that in my experience with people with dementia, with people suffering schizophrenia, the outcomes had been better working in the community support, because in that way you are splitting people and the possibilities for infection is lower.
Okay, thank you, Manuel. I would like to go then to our next speaker, who is Marco Blom. He is Scientific Director of Alzheimer Netherlands and also board member of Alzheimer Europe. And his main involvements were the development of the Alzheimer cafes, the academic research centers, and the online platform Dementia.nl. Recently, he is also appointed as chairman of the mission team of Health Holland, who focuses on the development of social and technological innovations to enhance quality of life of persons with dementia and carers. And he will present today about the role of people with dementia and family carers in creating and assessing artificial intelligence solutions, enhancing quality of life. You see the title also here. Marco, please speak up.
Yeah, thank you, Franka, for your kind introduction and also for the invitation to speak on, I would say, on behalf of the end users, so the people with dementia and their family carers. I have to give you a kind of heads up that my presentation is not about research. It's merely on experiences and observations me and my team made in the projects in which we are developing or helping to develop technical solutions. It's also not only on AI solutions, as it said in the title, but more broadly on technical solutions in general. So that's, I think, the early warning if you're listening to my talk. Before I start with the talk, I would give you some ideas of relevant facts that, in addition to the growing number of people with dementia, I think we should be aware of the fact that people with dementia are diagnosed much earlier on in the disease than years ago. And I think that solutions that we develop need to take this into account. So we should this means a shift from problem-oriented to more competence-oriented technical solutions. And the second thing that is I think of importance is that a growing part of people with dementia live alone, with family carers on a distance or not present at all. This means that technical solutions should take into account a more consumer-oriented orientation instead of relying on a present carer to assist and support the use of the technology. And another fact is that in the future, the lack of professional carers is one of the main problems in our society. And I think that's throughout Europe, at least. So solutions need to be less dependent on care professionals to be an intermediate in supporting the technology used by end users. Next slide, please. And I think the concept of readiness is important if you are involved in the development of technology. And technical readiness levels are a method of estimating technological maturity of an innovation. And the level of the TRL, as it's called, is determined on the basis of an assessment of program concepts, technology requirements, and demonstrated technology capabilities. But as a matter of fact, technical readiness is not alone is not enough to be a successful to have a successful introduction of your technology, because it should also be societal ready. And that is a concept that refers to the readiness of an innovation to be acceptable to society. And this is addressed by questions like, is the solution available at a good scale and at the right time and moment? And how does it contribute to the public good? And when I was talking about, or thinking about these concepts, I was wondering myself, is there something like dementia readiness? Is there something in between technical readiness and societal readiness that's called dementia readiness? I'll come back to that a bit later. Next slide, please. I think I used a simplified model of development of technical solutions. It's from idea to concept, and from concept to prototype, and from prototype to products. And I have two main observations that are based on our experience so far. Is that this is a bit complex, but read it twice if you need so. Beginning with the end in mind, so that means all people living with dementia are using my product, is not the same as ending with the beginning in mind. And this means that there's a challenge for those people who are inventing technological products to, as I would say, so to kill their darlings and to shift and change their ideas to something that's really valuable to people with dementia and family carers. So the idea might be original, but the way you produce it and change it on the way and co-designing it with end users is very important. And the second observation is that many technological innovations so far have failed to reach the market because they don't involve end users thoroughly enough in the first phases of the development process. So if end users are involved, mainly at the late stage. So I think why is involvement of end users like people with dementia and family carers important? I think they can help us give answer to certain crucial questions. And I summed up 3 of them. The idea is the idea based on a well-defined need problem of a large group of people living with dementia family carers. Too often we have seen technical solutions for an NS50 solution. So the problem is not big enough. It's not based on the needs of big groups of people with dementia. The other question is the concept well accepted by a variety of potential end users? This is a balance between one size fits many versus one size fits all. I think the developers have to focus on certain groups of people to be specific enough and not to be too broad. And the third question is the prototype, so in the later stages of the development, is the prototype easy or even fun to use? Is it well designed? And is the technique really supportive? So what we did so far is that we, as Alzheimer Nederland, used several methods of involving end users. You can divide them in more quantitative methods and qualitative methods, and more or less direct and versus indirect. I'll give you some examples. As Alzheimer Nederland, we do a biannual national survey amongst carers. They are filled in by 3,000 or 4,000 family carers. And we ask them what are your needs and problems you're facing. Now this gives a good basis on to check if the needs that your product is identifying, is it recognizable for family carers and people with dementia. We also have online panels and we use questionnaires in Alzheimer cafes or memory centers to really get hold of the needs and problems that people face. In a more qualitative way, we use focus group, as I mentioned before. And this is very powerful, more method that you can use when you're talking about real products. So if people can envision what it's like, how the use would be, these focus groups are very important to give you good information to move forward in the product development. But there are also indirect ways of you can use to involve end users. For instance, research focusing on needs and problems, but also a survey amongst professionals who are in close contact with people with dementia. They can identify also the needs and problems they encounter. So to give you an idea of how this could work is that in the whole phase, the 4 phases of the development, on several times you can use different kinds of methods to involve people. For instance, the national survey and research articles to give a good basis to the needs you want to address. That's a more quantitative method part of the development. I think in when you change your phase from idea to concept, or from concept to prototype, or from prototype to product, you should have really involve people with dementia and carers themselves via focus groups or via polls on a forum to make sure that the next phase you're entering is really based on the needs of the end users. A bit further away in the process, you can use interviews with end users. That's mainly a good thing to do when the prototype is already built. But you can also look at a survey amongst professionals to see if they think the product will be really works well to the needs and problems of their clients. So what you should do is you mix methods for instance, quantitative in the beginning and quantitative in the end, but especially focus on qualitative methods when going from idea to concept, from concept to prototype, and from prototype to product. I think you cannot underestimate or overestimate the importance of qualitative research methods in this phase of development. So I promise you to come back to the concept of social readiness. I repeated the definition. Social readiness refers to the readiness of an innovation to be acceptable to society, with those questions on the assessment side. And I think these assessment questions are really in line with ideas of the impact of the product that they may have. So if they contribute to the public good and they have enough scale, then they are potentially impactful. In my line of thinking, I always make a kind of definition of potential impact along 4 lines. One is the prevalence of the problem. So is the problem, I would say, big enough? And the severity of the problem or the unmet need. So if this is severe, then you have a potential impact factor there. It's also about how effective is the solution. Is it really counterbalancing the problem or preventing the problems? And also the timing and duration of the effectiveness. So the longer the problem is challenged, the better it is. So I think there's real room for the concept of dementia readiness, because I think then you should define it as the readiness of an innovation to be acceptable to people with dementia and family carers, and in an indirect way to the society as a whole. And I think for people who develop new products, I think they should listen to the voices of people with dementia and their carers to be successful in making this dementia readiness work, and in a way make sure that the societal readiness is at stake. So for me, dementia readiness is a concept that's a precondition to societal readiness. So if we not focus enough on the dementia topic and domain, then the societal readiness will be at stake. So my final conclusion would be that real impact instead of potential impact can be reached by a developmental process in which end users are identified as main stakeholders and co-developers. Thank you.
Oh, many thanks, Marco, for this interesting view. Yeah, based also on your experiences with working with end users. And yeah, also the importance of these end users, involving end users in the various stages and the different ways how you can do that. So very interesting. And I don't know if you see it also, there's a question for you. You describe involvement of end users by interviews and focus group. Do you also suggest to find ways to involve end users more actively? For instance, co-creating, co-researching, being part of a working group.
Well, I think that's an appealing idea. We didn't work with co-researchers, people with dementia in this kind of project, but I think we should try the best. So involve them the most that you can. Sometimes we wanted to involve people alongside the whole road of development, for instance, for a year or 1 year and a half. And that doesn't work for them because then the period is too lengthy. But it gives you the chance to involve a variety of people. So people from different phases of the disease, people from different backgrounds. So I think you have to make sure that you have a good bunch of people giving their opinion on the several phases of the developmental process. And it's not necessary to have the same people alongside the project for the whole time.
Yeah, no.
That's our opinion.
Yeah, and I think funding organizations nowadays ask also this patient involvement, I think from an early stage. Do you think it happens already quite a lot or too little in your opinion?
I think the funding organizations are quite keen in asking this, but it's a hard job to do it properly. So if they ask it, then they have to put money to it. So people stimulate people to do it, but also give budget for it. And we have a lucky position that we are both a co-funding organization and a patient organization, so that we can do it when we ask it. But especially governmental bodies have a simple question with sometimes a difficult answer.
Yeah, okay. Okay, many thanks, Marco. I think we go ahead with Professor Wijnand Ijsselstein. He is Professor of Cognition and Affect in Human Technology Interaction at Eindhoven University of Technology. And you will talk today about artificial intelligence and the challenge of living with dementia on an interdisciplinary approach to design warm, smart care solutions. So I hope we hear more about these warm, smart care solutions. Please go ahead.
Thanks. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here. Also listening to the other really interesting contributions. My own background is in cognitive neuropsychology and in artificial intelligence. And I also have the privilege to be co-director of the Expertise Center on Dementia and Technology, together with Rens Branckaert at the TU Eindhoven. Are you seeing my next slide at the moment? Good. All right. So let me dive into some of the challenges that we're trying to address. We're focusing with our expertise center on the challenges surrounding quality of life and optimizing quality of life for people living with dementia. Now, of course, the obvious challenge is, how do you address real needs of people with dementia? And this has, of course, been addressed already to a great extent, I think, by Marco and also by Manuel, in the sense that you need to do user-centered work. You need to do participatory work to identify those needs and be able to sensitize yourself to them. And you want to do that in a way that makes a real and substantive difference for the quality of life of people with dementia, as well as care efficiency, whilst also respecting the values of this vulnerable group. And that's not a trivial thing. I mean, especially if you look at AI, there are already ongoing discussions about, for instance, bias in AI or other kinds of worries that we have in sort of misrepresenting the needs of people or being insensitive to them. And this values sensitive design approach needs to be happening both during the research, in our interactions with people with dementia and carers, as well as embodied in our proposed innovations. Now, ideally, we'd like to make use of technologies that are smart and leveraging the kind of learning and predictive power that AI offers. But those technologies should not be complicated. Although they might be complicated to create, they should run in the background and are intuitive, recognizable, and easy to use. At the same time, we would like to acknowledge that AI or any technology is no panacea. So it's a means to an end, but it's not an end in and of itself. And in fact, there are many problems surrounding quality of life, or challenges, if you like, that are not addressable or not best addressed through technology. And finally, of course, we want to have solutions that will have a lasting impact. So one of the criteria of impact that Marco just mentioned was also the duration of the effect. So we want things that can play a positive role in daily lives of people and across varied contexts of care, and also across the lifespan of a person. So my metaphor of trying to build a bridge between AI and care is well, it's a bridge, in fact, and that metaphor has multiple meanings. So for one, there is a gap. So AI is not generally prone to very much look at the user or personalized side of things. And in dementia care, people are generally not well versed in AI technology. So there is a gap to be bridged, to be crossed in both directions, I would say. And one of the bridges that we're trying to build is the one of co-creation and co-design. So that involves, taking the inputs from people with dementia, as well as their carers and professionals in care, as well as working in an interdisciplinary fashion between relevant disciplines. So this is going to be what I'd like to look into a little bit deeper. But first, why AI? Why would that be a good idea? Well, AI has a number of characteristics that make it attractive, in particular in relation to people with cognitive deficits or dementia. It's a technology that can learn, so it doesn't also always require explicit a priori programming of all possible cases, rule sets, for instance, but it can also take from patterns that it senses in the environment and adapt accordingly. And this adaptivity can go along multiple axes. For instance, it can adapt over time, improving itself over time, or it can adapt to specific people, to specific situations, specific needs of a person. It can adapt to contexts. It can be situated in dynamically changing contexts or dramatically changing contexts, in a sense of a person moving from one situation to the next. It has a level of diagnosticity in that it can help us identify and understand complex patterns of behavior and maybe even signal connections between seemingly disconnected types of behavior. For instance, light exposure and restlessness. And finally, it may be helpful in predicting needs. So by using AI, one can actually, based on past patterns, also predict future ones and future needs that may emerge from that. For instance, prevention of likely escalation and timely and tailored types of intervention. So it seems that AI is a nice match to some of the issues that one might see emerging in the dementia care area. Why co-design? I think that argument has been made already prior to my talk by Marco, also by Manuel. So just a brief perspective on this from my end. I feel that co-design is, well, it's kind of the ethical thing to do, right? You're empowering the stakeholders for whom you're designing. So it's rather than designing for somebody, it's designing with somebody. It very much resonates with the idea also of participatory care. So no decision about me without me. And this is kind of also what we're trying to do with co-design in relation to AI technology. You want to give voice to the needs of the people with dementia who have to live with the solutions that you're producing. So you want to be relevant to their lived experiences and to the care practices that adopt these technologies. And it should be taken note that the needs expressed by people with dementia themselves are quite different from the needs expressed via other stakeholders who might talk as sort of a proxy for people with dementia, such as care professionals and informal carers. So although all those stakeholders are important, one should not replace the other. And co-design, I think, helps us in falling for a tech-first approach to design, one that you see quite often. For instance, we have robots. What can we do with robots in care? We have AI. What can we do with AI in care? That's kind of the wrong way around. It's like what Marco said, you need to start with the end in mind. And so tech first usually is not a good start. You're not designing for technology, you're designing for quality of life. In all this, I think a situated and community-based approach to co-design will be valuable as a way also to understand needs within their larger social physical context. That also means, for instance, that the co-design process may take place within realistic contexts, like living labs, for instance, as Professor Franco was arguing. And co-design can enhance creativity and yield better, more relevant systems and services with real uptake in use and longer lasting positive impact. So we hope to end up with, let's say, technology that has high dementia readiness, as Mark has argued, and we call that worm technology. So moving from smart technologies, things that are technologically perhaps very advanced, to meaningful innovations, things that work for people in their lives. And we want to focus there on the possible, on the potential, on the wealth of skills and experiences that older individuals possess. So this is this competence perspective that Marco was arguing for as well. We want support for social and emotional needs and enhancing feel-good moments. We want technology that's personally empowering, at the same time non-intimidating and highly user-friendly. We want beautiful, non-stigmatizing design solutions. We frequently see that design or technology for people living with dementia has this medical stigma associated with it, with which people, and rightfully so, do not accept as saying something positive about themselves. We also need to acknowledge the rich diversity in older age, especially as the population of seniors is also diversifying. Not merely in technological skills, but also, for instance, in cultural background. And all of this, we want to have personalized designs that utilize and support the richness of the human sensory and motor system, but also to understand personal history, context, and preferences. Now, clearly, this is not one discipline that can do all this. So we need really interdisciplinary collaboration, starting with people with dementia and their care networks, who are key to formulating their needs, but also to reflect on their lived experiences with current technologies, the kinds of frustrations that they are dealing with, the kinds of problems, but also the wishes and ambitions that they have, reflecting on their patient journey, reflecting on what kind of quality of life outcomes they value, taking this into account, the support networks and the physical environment that they're confronted with. We need care professionals, practitioners, nursing scientists, psychologists, neurologists, etc. And we need tech, right? We need the people that can build the things that we're after. So people that are well versed in data science or in robotics or in natural language programming or in gerontechnology. And this bridge we need, so to build a bridge between the worlds of care and tech, we need co-design to involve the aforementioned people with dementia in a way that empowers them. For this, we need qualitative research, we need design anthropology, we need methods to really involve people in an efficient and effective way. And of course, we do not need to, we can't forget ethics. This is it's part and parcel of what we design, right? So embodied in our designs are already inherent ethical choices. We need to acknowledge those and be conscious of those and design for the values that we want. And finally, I think it's important to also explicitly look at implementation and impact. There has been a big challenge for technology to become accepted in the world of care, to become successful. So for this, we just shouldn't assume that a good idea will immediately be a successful product. There's a science behind this as well that we need to acknowledge. Now, we are in the process of developing a project called QuoLead that tries to bring together these various disciplines and tries to develop a precision approach based on person-centered AI-powered learning strategies to offer the types of tailored, accessible, and sustainable care technologies and innovations that we've just been talking about. And for this, we've brought together an impressive network of partners. It was initiated originally by the JAIN network, also by Alzheimer Nederland, and we are very fortunate, I think, to have this mix of AI, care, design, ethics, and implementation sciences all present in our consortium. But having said that, and given all our ambitions, we still put the wishes and needs of people with dementia and their carers at center stage. So this whole project that we're designing have actually been designed around the quality of life areas that people with dementia have mentioned themselves as being key to their living quality. So, and with this, I would like to thank you for your attention. I'll stop sharing.
Great, thank you very much, Wijnand, for this interesting presentation. To learn us more about artificial intelligence, what it can do, and also where it can lead to. And this co-lead project is then one thing that you say to combine everything and combine all the disciplines in helping to move this field forward. I saw this is a national project. I think I saw an international advisory board.
You're correct. Yes, it is a national project, but of course we have international ambitions. So we have an international advisory board already attached to this particular project, but we want to connect also to international initiatives because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to collaborate because within international context, of course, all kinds of developments are happening that are relevant also to the kinds of innovations that we want to develop. So I think collaboration is key everywhere, in science, as in care, as in this project. So we're very sort of open, outward-looking project in terms of if you want to work with us and collaborate, I think we're really open to that. Yeah, well, good to hear. And I think that's a bit the main summary, I think, of our session today, that collaboration with different stakeholders is very important in this field, and especially involving the end user at an early stage and in different ways, as Marco said, also to try that out in field labs.
And yeah, Jane is also part in all of these activities, I know, and also very willing and open to share information with everyone. So I hope we can continue the learning community, not only in the symposium today, but also later on. So if people want to join, yeah, please do so in or either the challenge or in webinars that are organized or thinking together. So that would really be helpful, I think. And I want to thank Alzheimer Europe also for having giving us this opportunity. I want to thank the speakers and the audience, and also for the technical support today. And I think it's 3:30, so we have to finalize too. So many thanks all, and enjoy the rest of the conference.